that fall in the gap between LIGO and LISA, and these cannot be detected by any other sensors. So you can use these sensors to detect gravitational waves, dark matter, dark energy fluctuations, and so on. Lots of technologies around, involve very high Q superconducting cavity. India now has a lot of expertise in this area. Superconducting magnets, India has a lot of expertise, having supplied them to research and so on. Atomic beams, low threshold calorimeters, computing, electronics, and so on. So I would simply say that quantum sensors having such a long list of applications, from particle physics to astrophysics to quantum information science, cryptography, computing, new types of correlated materials, and so on, is actually very ripe for exploring today. And my pitch to the Indian community would be that it's now time for some of us who have been working with very large-scale particle accelerators continue to push our work on colliders and large facilities as far as our collaboration and resources around the globe allow us to do, but at the same time invest intellectually and resource-wise into some of these emerging technologies, because the young people today can find this technology to be very useful in multiple disciplines. Job market is very good, and one of the low-hanging fruits of taking this technology to the very limit of quantum cryptography is that we actually develop sensors that are extremely important for fundamental physics. So this will end my technical talk, and normally I take questions at this point, but for the sake of time, let me continue because and say a few words about you, and then we can stop quickly and just so let me just continue here. It's now time to actually talk because I'm very happy that because involved me in this program. I wish I could come here physically to you guys, but he invited me half a dozen times. I could have come 3 out of 6 times, but this time I could not come because, as I said, I planned to go to Bangalore for 4 months at the end of the year to fulfill my Infosys commitment. So it was a problem logistically. So let us celebrate this online. I'd like to say a few things about Vikash's brilliant scientific career and his background. Now you see, there's some early influences of Vikash's life which make many people jealous because of the way we have to interact with as a Rose as a young boy. I left India in 1972. I was not even 21. Professor Bose passed away 74. I was fortunate to interact with his grandson in Berkeley, Falguni, and despite my best effort, I managed to convert him into a computer scientist. And he joined Sun Microsystems and so on. But I never really had an audience with Professor Bose directly. I'm not to mention that he became a photo op. So it must have been very exciting for a young mind to have direct contact with the mentor like Professor Bose. Of course, the family played a major role in Vikash's life, as you see. Very proud son, family heritage has been inspirational for Vikash. Grew up in Calcutta, which has been, let us say, as far as the universities are concerned in South Asia, I would say that since old universities in the West, you had the one Nalanda, and before Nalanda there was one which is on Pakistan, Takshila, Nalanda, but then the really modern Western style university was University of Calcutta in the colonial, began in colonial road with that jurisdiction all the way from Lahore and Kabul from the west to Dhaka and Rangoon in the east. And in 1940s and 50s, many of the scholars were still there, like C.G. Roberts and Saar, Professor Bose. So obviously, the influence of the great professors in Calcutta made a big mark on it. Because said that he actually was very much influenced by Professor Albert Kumar activity to give a course on special behavior activity, which is test upon him the importance of aid and Dr. Shamil Sajjad. I never met this gentleman actually. From Galarians, probably was the most inspirational lecturer in his life. He's just a these professors convinced him to take up physics research as a career. Then eventually he went to UK, after to Cambridge, as undergraduate at King's College, London, University of London, for his PhD, doctoral degree. I don't have to mention these famous names, the legendary name, Brian Power at Cambridge and for Neville March. The Neville March convinced him that nuclear physics was an appropriate avenue to follow in India. I had the fortune to actually use the March polarimeter in my experimental studies of particle spins and polarizations and so on. They were very clever man. So having been influenced by Pipard and March was quite something for Vikas. He lost his father, of course, and comes back to Cambridge in the picture of Vikas. He's wearing a Nepali cap and his shaven head, the loss of his father. He returns to India, and gentleman Raja Ramanna was extremely influential on Vikas and convinced him to join the Atomic Energy Enterprise. And according to Vikas, she was so inspirational that he actually came and influenced him for his entire career. Since from Bart he came to BCC, and then he tried to lead BCC and the Science Institute, and so one of the major influences in his life was Raja Ramanna. Later, of course, in his life, he saw very much influenced Raja Penrose. Here you see Professor Salam in Calcutta with Manoj Pal. So quite a few influential 20th century physicists that he had rushed towards with them. So I can summarize briefly his journey from his ancestral home to education in Calcutta Residency College to University of Cambridge, to King's College, University of London, returning to India, to join the Atomic Energy Enterprise, then leading the very cyclotron and the Science Institute. I must say that staying within the system, within India, and in Calcutta, because essentially, although Vikas has the attitude of a Cambridge Don, but he's actually quintessentially a Bengali fellow. And sitting in Calcutta, leading these two institutes, he actually created a large number of very significant collaborations. One of the major ones, of course, you heard from Rolf Hoyer, is a collaboration with CERN on the heavy iron program. They have captured indigenous and leadership role in detection of proton, study analysis, and many other things. Scientifically speaking, I don't have to say more. His major contribution started in 1983, which is the line of paper, universal signals of quantum plasma, phase transition, which has been mentioned by many people in the last 4 years. He also did many other things for societal contribution. Superconducting cyclotron is a very complicated business. K equals 500. Constructed and operated in Kolkata. It was very difficult, and a lot of expertise came from Japan, but it is the indigenous effort in Kolkata. This was India's first. Medical cyclotron in Kolkata for nuclear medicine, strong collaboration with industry. There was the radioactive ion beam project, again, very ambitious nuclear facility, in fact, superconducting nuclear technology, superconducting nuclear technology, and then collaboration with the medical community related to cancer-related nuclear physics. These are some of the societal contributions they have been made. large number, because has more than 350 to 400 publications, and in discussions with him, I picked these 10, starting from 1983, pioneering work on plasma universal signature, to all the way, most recent, even now, as recent as 2020, he actually published it. Hawking radiation from French mathematics, published in physical 2D. Large number of papers, top 10 publications, all have to do with strong phase from nuclear phase, core plasma and the signatures. My personal collaboration with Vikas has been for quite a few decades. I mean, they have to do to look at the cyclotron. He created an international advisory committee where we met many years, year after year, and until the day they got the beam out of it. There was international collaboration on US-India, something called the US-India Discovery Science Collaboration, where all the national lab directors in the United States got together with major directors in India and created a collaboration program, which is actually helping the neutrino program in USA today that I mentioned, the nuclear facility at Fermilab. I was also interacting with Vikas and his institute with the reactive iron beam project. I collaborated on technology transfer of superconducting RF from Jefferson Lab to VCC, and eventually from Triumph to PDCC. Several public lectures he kindly arranged for me in Kolkata, rather on the lecture, lecture. Finally, I tried to help in a modest way to the creation of the Integral Center because has very strong philosophical bent of mind, very rare for scientists to have both literary, philosophical, and scientific prowess. Quite a few, quite periodic appearances in local periodicals and days around the bazaar. He worked on books for popular books and also some scientific outreach and communication books. Here I show you a Bengali book, Srishti or Krishti, Pandal Granthi and Vipassana. Large number of anthologies in quantum plasma, astrophysics and cosmology, aesthetics and beauty in physics, collaborations, and also some kind of a spiritual and philosophical studies of Vedanta and how it relates to physics. So it's quite a broad spectrum, quite large profile, quite admirable, and I think it's time today that he's really celebrated, belated 2 years late, but let's toast to Vikas and Khalid because it's belated 75th. Happy birthday, Vikas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shapur, for a very engaging and to be rather embarrassing talk. Thank you so much. One item left still. I have to thank some people and say a few words to close at this particular.
এইবার ক্লোজে নেবে
I brought you back in time, Vikas, so you're in time.
Thank you. Well, my friends, you must be very tired. So am I. But I think it's very important to thank people who are held the basic core of functioning of this conference. And before that, I'll say that this wonderful conference, after so many postponements, has actually happened. And it is unavoidably and inevitably coming to an end. In a way, I feel that we have conquered COVID-19 through this conference without vaccination. It is time to thank our friends and even foes. I believe that now. So first of all, I'd like to call upon these following people who are behind this scene has helped us a lot. Mr. Vikas Shingal, where are you? Come on, man. Mr. Pradeep Das, Mr. Ashish Tiwari, Mr. Alok Kumar, Rasul of VECC, and Sudhar Swami of my office. And Tilak Go. Tilak is so not to get very good. These guys are not smart enough. They wanted to swap that themselves, actually. Come on. You work very hard. I'll just take 5-6 minutes, that's all. Macrocosmos Accelerator philosophy is a very complex and convoluted combination, no doubt. But it's fair to say we have been, by far and large, successful in cutting through that convolution. And it has been largely successful, I think. People who are old-fashioned, and I define people who are old-fashioned is not by their age, by their earnest desire not to leave the comfort zone of the life. And they frown upon me. Why do you do these things? They are not standard. My God, you have to do something standard or read, research. Then don't bury the street. It's always a challenge for new things. It is actually to be understood that today's world is multidimensional. Today's world is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. We talk about it in lectures and so on, but don't do much about it. And I think with all due respect, for the last 2 years that I've been working for this conference, this is a manifestation that India may be ready to take on this challenge of multidimensional research work, a combination of macrocosmos, and so on. The first point I want to make quickly. What a carnival of ideas we have in this conference. Fresh, in some sense, from extreme macrocosmos, or rather Polros, to extreme macrocosmos, to even today's talk. Yet clearly, The Microcosmos is feeding the development of Macrocosmos, which is why we have now the two cosmos complementing each other. I cannot imagine there has been ever in human history such a complementarity in science. Accelerators are opposed, they must. It's a modern looking glass. And there is an underlying philosophy of all this phenomena. Philosophy makes a complete canvas for the individual, apparently isolated phenomenon. First of all, I do not know how to thank enough my speakers, some of who have dared to come across the oceans with all kinds of odds against them. And thank you very, very much indeed. And each one of them did such a splendid job in presenting their talk. There are speakers and chairmen for men of humanities in general. I chose them to assert the humanistic and the importance of science and complementarity. Why don't they accept it that the best can't do without it? Have you seen, can't do without it, excuse me. Have you seen Weinberg's quotation of Dylan Thomas, the great British poet, in a recent book? Please don't lose sight, Weinberg is a great philosopher and one of the greatest scientists. And he explained Dylan Thomas, the poem, so brilliantly. I must say, I don't want to cite man by man, woman by woman, but there is one anxiety I had in my mind which I must explain and express to you. Just for an example, is the complementarity of my friend Amanda and Shubir. You may know their husband and wife. What complementarity role each plays for the other. I was deeply touched and more importantly impressed by Tom's feeling into the winds of the universe. Brilliant. My friends from abroad all helped tremendously online and in person. Thank you very much. And the last talk of Chapeau in his usual way is controlled theatre. The intellectual carnival is drawing towards the end. I always feel rather sad, having cursed in the beginning that I got into. That's life. I promised to myself, and I do promise again in front of my friends, I would never organize such a conference the rest of my life. In some sense, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, farewell. But that doesn't mean farewell from science and my interaction to them, because science is just a seductive nectar. A true scientist never retires or tires of science. The torch must go on to younger ones. Talking about the young